Hello, everybody. Hello, Olga Sweater. And thank you guys for joining. Welcome to our webinar about crafting a high impact integration strategy. I love this panel because we have product and partnership folks, my two favorite kinds of humans.
Love it.
This webinar will focus on how software companies can create and execute impactful and scalable integration strategies that align with your business outcomes. We'll also provide more insights on how teams prioritize integrations, navigate build versus buy, and develop adaptable roadmaps for 2025. So my name's Christina. I'm the CEO at Pandium. We are hosting this webinar. We'll have time at the end here. We're going for about 40 minutes to 12:40 Eastern. We'll save a couple minutes at the end for questions. If you guys have questions, please feel free to drop them into the LinkedIn chat and someone from our team will queue those up and we can get them answered. So let's start with a round of intros here. If you guys want to say who you are, where you work, and what you do, and where you're from. Where are you calling in from? Mia, you want to go first?
For sure. Hello, everyone. So excited to be here. My name is Mia Healy. I'm the Director of Tech Partnerships here at Triple Whale. I've been in the e-com space for over 6 years now, and I'm based in sunny Orlando, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need the sweater. Derek.
Going on, everybody. Derek Booth, Head of Sales and Partnerships at Justuno. I've been in the space for 7 years, my entire career being at Justuno. I actually just celebrated my 7 years yesterday. And I've done it all, from being in a customer-facing role to leading and building an org-wide sales and partnerships function. And I mean, integration strategy is something that I'm super passionate about today. So I'm really excited to speak to everybody.
We'd love to hear it. And Olga.
Hi, everybody. Olga here. I'm calling in from San Francisco, and I am a group product manager at Gorgias, where DevRel team is part of my of the team that report into me, part of my scope. I've been in product for probably about 10 years, a bit more, and I'm also an entrepreneur. So I guess you were never a former founder, but I have started a few companies, and then go back and forth between working for other people and trying to build something for myself. Super excited to be here. Thank you so much, Christina, for inviting me.
Very cool.
Yeah, so excited to have you. And again, my name's Christina. I'm the CEO here at Pandium. We do integration infrastructure for SaaS companies. I've been in the space for almost 20 years, which is a long time to be integrating software. And I am here in beautiful Brooklyn, New York. Beautiful, a little bit chilly. So without further ado, let's get started. And my panelists, you guys can really just jump in. This is meant to be an organic conversation. We obviously don't have a deck. We're just jamming out with the banter for all the nice people on LinkedIn. So let's go. So let's start off with high level. Why is a robust integration strategy critical for SaaS companies in 2025? And how can an integration help you differentiate when it comes to growth, customer retention, and also landing net new deals? Who wants to go first?
I'll tackle it.
Oh. Whoever wants to go first.
Mia, you got it first.
All of us are like, I've got something to say.
Yeah.
So I'll tackle the first part of that question and why it's actually important, because for anyone who's unfamiliar with Triple Whale, we help brands better understand who their customers are and where their customers are coming from, right? And so especially working in SaaS, just consumer expectations have heightened, and also customer acquisition costs have heightened and risen so much. It is so expensive to acquire a customer now. And so that's not true for just for only e-commerce brands and in the D2C space. That's also true for SaaS as well. It is very, very expensive now to acquire, more brands. Yep. And so because it is getting so much more expensive, that means it's even more important now to retain the brands that you are working with. And so having a strong integration strategy really ensures that you are providing the best value, the best experience for the brands who are trusting your SaaS and your tool in their tech stack, and increasing that retention, keeping them sticky inside of the platform. All of that is driven through integrations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Olga, what do you think?
So true.
Yeah. So maybe I'll tackle from a couple of angles. So just a little bit about Gorgias. So we are a conversational AI platform for e-commerce, and what we do is we help to optimize support, but also drive sales through an AI tool. And there's like so many angles for why integrations are important for us. So we both do AI and also human agents. We support them both. And when we talk to brands, for for the AI tool, they need to for it to be able to do whatever the human does, right? And so that actually requires integration. Where a human can hop from a platform to a platform to a platform to take one action, either to serve a customer on the support request or on seller request, it's basically impossible for that to do for an AI. I mean, at least maybe until more advancements happen or the operator gets super advanced. But for now, it's actually impossible. And so it's really critical for our brands that we have great integrations that can both ingest data and then also take actions on other platforms. And it's becoming like a differentiator for us. And then on the human agent side, everybody wants to optimize their workflows, right? They don't want the agents to have really complex workflows. They want them to be able to serve their customers quickly and to do so effectively with minimal errors, if any at all. And having integrations built into our tool enables our customers and their agents to do that. So they don't have to leave Gorgias to go take an action. They don't have to leave Gorgias to go seek for data, in another tool and learn how to find that data in another tool. So to us, actually, Pandium has been great because it helps us facilitate, those integrations, and that actually helps us get there quicker. And then so that's kind of like more on the go-to-market side, and then more on the retention side. So we had this question about like, okay, what do integrations really do for us? Like, it's really hard to quantify because there could be multiple things happening with a customer. And we've looked at customers who have utilized integrations and customers who haven't utilized integrations, and we can see there's quite a meaningful difference between their retention, how long they stay, and then how many of them stay. And so we've made a strategic decision to actually continue investing in our integrations because we can see it from our metrics that it helps us retain customers, which means they're actually getting value from those integrations.
Absolutely.
Derek, what do you think, Derek?
I mean, these ladies pretty much hit on everything that I was going to cover. So I'm going to take it from the angle of just like understanding the brand and what the brands are faced with. I mean, the brands have resource constraints. Their teams are smaller. And at the end of the day, like there needs to be realized value with the limited lift for those brands and their teams. They can't be spending time trying to figure out how they're going to connect X software with X software. And, from the perspective of like keeping the client, we talked a lot about retention. The brands are going to be adding and removing things all the time. So the more complicated you make it for them, it's going to mess with your own customer experience, and they're going to be less likely to stay with you. I mean, very, very simply put. So these ladies pretty much covered everything, but that's my feedback and my plug, I guess.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting as like tech is evolving, how point solutions are becoming or continuing to become more prevalent. Like I think if you look back like 10, 15 years ago, there was this idea that like there'd be one system where everything lives all the time. And now we see like systems of record can be in a bunch of different systems for different things, and that requires that interoperability, right? Like everyone is not using Oracle to have 100% of their data and all of their operations. So it's an exciting time, and I think as even as AI lowers the barrier to entry, right, with building technology, there'll be even more of these little things. And Olga, to your point, AI is fed by data, right? Like you need to be getting all this data for it to work. So I think it's a really exciting time to be in the interoperability game. So let's talk a little bit about, excuse me, product roadmap and integration goals. So do you guys have any tips? And we actually have a really good group here. And Derek, you've been all over the kind of map in your role. On any tips on aligning the go-to-market goals with integration planning, and then how, as a PM, or maybe as a partner person talking to a PM, how do you get those integrations kind of woven into the strategy of business?
Y'all want me to start?
Do it, Derek.
I'll start this time. So, look, every organization is built differently. Every organization has different structure and the size of the organization as well. So I think there's going to be multiple different approaches to this, but I think something that's applicable to all organizations is really starting from the ground level, right? Let's start from the ground level. Let's look at the merchant facing discussions and the customer facing team interactions that are having, and simply think of it in the lens of merchant churn and revenue, right? So for example, you know, was there a big opportunity that was lost because you did not have an integration? Um, was having a missing integration causing a lot of frustrations with the client, which ultimately led to a NPS score being low or them ultimately leaving you? Those are the types of examples that you want to surface up when you're having those cross-functional discussions, but also when you're funneling up these conversations with product team and leadership teams, because that's going to put visibility to it. And regardless of how mature you are or how mature you are not, it's applicable, right? Because if you are mature, it helps you reprioritize your roadmap. If you're working to get the buy-in as to the importance of like why integrations are important, this is a really good way to surface that up. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that. What was the second part of the question again?
The second part was around how to get integrations basically added to your roadmap. Like how do you manage to get that when there's a ton of product related work all the time?
I
And
mean, look,
integrations are not that cool. Sorry.
at the end of the day, I think that you have to be able to effectively show the business impact that it's having, and then your product teams need to be KPI'd on integrations as a part of what they're doing, as a part of their role and their responsibilities. Very simply put.
Absolutely. And in that same vein of, because Derek mentioned two really important parts, communication and alignment. And in that same vein, it's also
Yeah.
so important to ensure that when you are communicating with these teams, that you're speaking the same language, or rather you're speaking their language, especially when you're trying to pitch new integrations. So like a perfect example of this at Triple Whale is, our team is KPI'd on the net new business that we're bringing in, right? So that's our value. When we're looking at, new integration opportunities with partners, we're looking at, what's the prospect opportunity here, right? What's the overlap with open opportunities? We're looking at the net new business. Whereas with product, they may be looking at retention, right? So it's really important to make sure that when you are talking to these different teams, when you're talking to stakeholders, that you're speaking the same language or what matters most to them.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah, Olga, I'm curious from your perspective. You work at a company that has a very strong integrated ecosystem. So I'm wondering, what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So the way that Gorgias works is that we have top level goals for the company, and then everybody ladders up to those goals. We use OKRs as a framework, and so every team should drive business impact, which then we just translate into customer value. And so we have usually like ARR, which basically means annual recurring revenue goals or retention goals. And retention is basically we measure like how many customers became churn risk because of something. And so for all of my product management folks on the call or watching today, or maybe later recording, I would suggest to like get really close to the go-to-market teams, because they're talking to customers a lot. I mean, hopefully you're also talking to customers, but the volume is just like much bigger with the go-to-market teams. And what's important is maybe not just one-off conversations, but like build systematic like feedback loops. And so make sure that they're like your CSMs, success managers, are capturing churn risk reasons and the actual churn reasons, so that you can get that data and react to it more quickly and be able to reprioritize certain things. And then make sure that your go-to-market teams are also capturing deal loss reasons. So like you don't want to get to the point where like it becomes such a big problem that it bubbles up to a CRO and then they have to come and talk to you. You want to be able to start seeing a trend early as it happens. And so capturing that data and feeding into it is important. And so we do actually, like on a product side, is we look at what of the biggest, support topics, churn reasons, churn mitigation or churn risk reasons, and then deals lost. And we use that to then inform who we should be integrating with. Or maybe like, do we need to go and improve an integration somewhere? Because it used to be strong, but now we're seeing that maybe customers are either complaining in support about it, or maybe they're, we're losing deals because it's not on par with a competitor. So yeah, I would say like first, your product teams have to be targeted on this. But second is, like get close to your go-to-market teams, because they do a lot of talking to customers.
Yeah, sure. I 100% agree. And I'm actually curious for my own knowledge as well, because I've done this and seen it in a bunch of places, but what do you guys really tactically like? How do you capture this information? Like Olga, maybe from the product perspective, maybe for partnerships too, like how often do you review those calls? Like, are you guys using Gong to aggregate these things? And in my experience, this sounds like really like kind of foundational level stuff, but it's often missing. Or like one team is using this thing, another team's using this thing, and maybe the data's there, but no one's looking at it on a regular basis. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys have seen work well.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll start. Oh,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Derek.
Olga. Go ahead, Olga. Go ahead.
Okay. So there needs to be like really close alignment between the go-to-market teams and their processes, maybe the ops for the go-to-market teams, and also the analytics team that builds the dashboards, and then your product team. And so we actually recently were going through, like, I had an OKR and I was like, hey, like I don't think I'm getting the right data. And we realized like that maybe we need to update the process for what gets captured. And so in HubSpot or like whatever tools you use, maybe like Vitally, we ask success or sales team to add notes, and then those notes are then fed into a dashboard that we track on a consistent basis. And if we have an OKR around this, we track it on a weekly basis. Like we report on it every single week. And so the process is, of course, support success and go to market teams have to add that data in. That has to be part of their workflow, and then it needs to feed into a database that then your analytics team can pull, or maybe like you can pull if you're SQL savvy. And then you need to be able to report on this to your to leadership and to your other teams for accountability. So it's not so hard to set up. It's just like time consuming because it requires people to change behavior, but definitely feasible because we're doing it.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
Derek.
true. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I keep talking about org structure and size and alignment. All those things are very important. And each of you are probably thinking right now, like, there ain't no way that we're going to be able to build a reporting dashboard in 2 weeks, or we don't even have that built into a process. That's totally fine. At the end of the day, we actually started from a level where we didn't have any of this. And it really just started first and we talked a lot about the go-to-market teams, relationship building with the go-to-market teams. I don't expect you to get the buy-in from all members on that team, but if you can get one or two people that are bought into, the importance of integrations and partnerships, find those people, right? And then use that to build from there. Olga, you talked a lot about, reporting. What we've kind of matured into is I have what's called a win-loss opportunity analysis dashboard. So all of our sales team, anytime they win a deal or they lose a deal, we have it all broken down by reason, right? And for integrations are included inside of that. So we're able to see where those missing integrations are. We're able to get that to product team, and we're able to show the business impact that it's having. So Mia, go ahead and pass it off to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. You brought up something really great about just go to market team alignment. And I think what also is helpful, especially if you're the person who wants to increase the level of reporting and be able to just have this as reference moving forward, and you're trying to build this case, learn what's already in place. And what I mean by that is figure out what the sales team is doing. When they're talking to brands, what is their existing flow right now that they all, and like Olga mentioned, behavioral changes are very difficult. So rather than, finding this new tool or finding, this new thing that you want to use and that you feel really bullish and confident on, that is great. Still do that. But in the interim, while you're working towards implementing some of those more drastic changes, what you can do right now is figure out, okay, when the sales team is talking to brands and they're learning about their current integration or tech stack, what are they doing? Are they tracking those notes inside of HubSpot? If so, can I add perhaps a one-liner or two one-liners about what their current tech stack looks like? If they are in market for XYZ type of integrations, that kind of thing. Figure out what is already being used and how you can build in and tap into those existing flows. It'll just make your life so much easier when trying to get buy-in now.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, not adding like new processes, just like slightly iterating on existing ones, I think is definitely a way to go. I'll also say too, like coming from a little bit of the product side myself, I find that when you go to like go-to-market teams, especially like sales teams, and say like, we want to learn more about why you're like losing business, or how can we, like, what integration related stuff are you guys hearing about all the time? Like a savvy and good salesperson will be excited by that. Like they will
Yes.
want to
Yes,
tell you,
So
because
true.
they don't,
absolutely.
they are
Top
probably
performers are
like
gonna, yeah,
throwing that stuff over the wall all day, every day. So,
yeah,
I always tell folks like cross departmental alignment, there's no like silver bullet to that. A lot of it is just interpersonal and going
yeah,
over and saying, hey, like, I would like for you to not have to come to my desk anymore and ask if we have that integration. Like, I just want you to be able to self serve and to be able to say yes to that.
Exactly. And especially if you're in a partnership leader position, it's also just like a pro tip and a hack for getting integration buy-in is also to help bridge the gap between product and sales. Because a
yeah,
lot of the time that gap is so real, where
yeah,
as the partnership person, you're at the intersection between all of these different departments. And a lot of the times you act as the middleman,
yeah,
which may work in the beginning when you're just trying to get your hands dirty and you're trying to figure things out. But as you scale, it's just not scalable to continue being that middle person.
yeah,
So I highly recommend like make sure that you're bridging that gap between product and sales, because that'll make such a world of a difference. And to Christina's point, like the sales team want to be able to have more of an impact over the integration roadmap. I mean, they're on the front lines, they're talking to the brands, they're
yes,
hearing directly what integrations are needed, and how those integrations align with your goals and objectives as a company. So definitely highly recommend helping to bridge those gaps. It's incredibly helpful for helping with that. Going back to when we were talking about integration roadmap and
mhm,
framework, that in itself will make a really big impact.
yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, and I'll also, this is not specifically the topic of this, but I always like to say, like, doing the shout outs when these things go well. And I'm a
Mm,
huge fan of CX people.
Oh,
Like, Olga, you know
yes,
this. Like, I love customer
yeah,
support. But
absolutely.
saying, like, during all hands, like, hey, you know, like, thanks to Mia's team, we closed X amount of new biz, or the CX team was really
yeah,
excited about XYZ. It's like one of those, it's a feature that's really easy to draw like direct testimonial from, versus
yeah,
like some other things that are in app are a little bit harder sometimes to
so
see
true.
like the value immediately and directly. Integrations are like a feature where it's like it was there or it's not.
Yeah,
And that I think helps like foster an environment within your organization of
hmm,
both cross collaboration
yeah,
and more investment in that integration and stuff. Go
so
ahead, Olga.
true.
Absolutely.
No, I was just agreeing. Yeah, like I think that I call outs, just give people some credit and they will want to do, more and help you more. So yeah, for,
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
Let's talk about looking at 2025 and beyond. So,
Mm.
are you guys observing, and what are the trends that you're seeing with APIs and integrations that are emerging in 2025? I feel like AI is a big thing. Olga, you got your hands in that a little bit. But are you guys seeing anything else that you think folks on the call should be looking out for?
I'll go first. I don't know if y'all have noticed this, but I'm noticing that the in-app OAuth connection is becoming a lot more common in
Derek, why was that
marketplaces.
literally also on my notes? Like literally, yes, take it away. This is perfect.
Yeah, so that's much more common, and I feel that if you're not doing this, you're going to be left behind. Um, that's that's a trend that I'm seeing that's emerging. When I look at some of the most successful, apps that are out there and softwares that are out there, they all have the in-app OAuth connection. So get on board with it if you're not doing it. I mean, that's one of the trends that I'm noticing. I'll go ahead and pass it off to y'all.
I would say from an AI perspective, I think especially like in our industry,
Yeah,
we're noticing obviously OpenAI is constantly coming out with new updates, new features. I think it's so important to stay dialed in on what they're working on and the value that they're bringing. Like perfect prime example of this is when OpenAI was first, releasing ChatGPT. It took Triple Whale, I want to say like a year. We were actually just talking about this. It took Triple Whale about a year to come out with a feature that we call Moby, which is like your e-commerce
mm,
chat GPT type best friend, where you can like chat with your data, etc. However, OpenAI, as I'm sure we've all seen, just recently released agents. And so Triple Whale was able to have that turnaround time with our version of agents in 12 days. And I think we're going to start noticing that type of trend where founders, CEOs, chief of product are staying really dialed in on what OpenAI is coming out with and how that can influence your own product, your own features, and how you can stay on top of trend and keep a finger on the pulse of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe just like plus one on what Derek said about authentication is just like make it easier for your customers, make it so they don't have to do it multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and also when you're thinking about the integration, like your first step might be pulling data into your tool. But like, at least for us, like our next step is like, okay, how do we then take action on another tool?
Yeah.
So if, as you're thinking through, like maybe like future proofing, what would be the integration? Like, okay, it's just getting the data in the door is the first step, but then eventually it's going to be getting data out. So maybe that's something just to be like aware of. And then another thing is, is you trying to maybe like utilize that data with a model, or it just in general, like it'll look different coming from different sources. So start thinking about that early. Like how are you going to add schemas or document schemas, like how you will be able to use that data, not just like maybe internally to display to the customers, but maybe in the models. And I don't like to say have a solution for this now, but it's just something that like you will, once you start building out the integrations, you'll get to the point where you're like, okay, we need to for example, allow this like model to understand data source coming from 4 different integrations that are very similar, but they all store like ID in 5 different ways. And so how do you actually like create like maybe unified model where you can like split the data in an easier way, and utilize it with tools that are available. So maybe like, I don't have answers, but things that you should think about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And like in that same vein of ease of use and just making it as easy as possible, having your integration setup process be streamlined across the board is also so helpful. It's easier said than done depending on the size of your catalog of integrations. But if possible, try to make it as streamlined and as similar as you possibly can between all of your integrations. Because if a brand is trying to set up like 5 different integrations and the setup process differs significantly between those 5 integrations, it is so frustrating and just overall not a super great experience for them. So that's also like in that same vein of just ease of use and setup, trying to streamline that actual flow will also be really helpful.
Yep.
100%. Go ahead, Oli. Sorry.
Oh, no,
Derek.
no. I don't have anything to add. I mean, y'all covered pretty much everything that I wanted to add, so I don't have anything to add.
Well, I think Olga just touched on it too, like around future proofing. Like how do you think about building these in a way that will allow you to expand upon them in the future? Olga, I think you had some great ideas and comments there about the data models. I think you and I could probably riff forever on like best practices. I wish every system had an external ID field in their metadata, but that is not for this conversation. But yeah, I'm wondering, Mia, it kind of speaks to your point too around like thinking from the beginning about having a long-term strategy around the UX, which, of course it's UX, everything is long-term, but integrations always have this way, in my experience, of kind of being like hacked together a little bit.
Yes.
So yeah, curious if you guys have any further thoughts beyond, having flexible data models, which makes me feel so happy, Olga.
I think from like a setup process, we've kind of covered it a bit. I guess from a like feature standpoint though, this is where it comes like this is where it's really important to have a strong we've talked about alignment so much, like alignment should be the theme of this, but this is where it's really important to have strong alignment between product and the roadmap and the future of the company to really understand perhaps what integrations can bridge the gap in our feature set that we're not exploring in the next 1, 2, 3 years. And being able to stay on top of, or, stay ahead of the curve when it comes to how can we integrate and bring those features into our product without having to natively support these features. So that's also from like a roadmap perspective, that's one way that you could future proof a bit, is being able to just have that strong alignment with what the roadmap actually looks like in the next 5 or so years and how we can plan accordingly for those, for those integrations. And obviously in SaaS and startup world, things are shifting and pivoting left, right, and center, but at least having a general baseline idea of where the company is going and how we can reach those goals will just give you a North Star a bit when you're trying to determine new integrations to build and kind of future-proofing your strategy just a bit.
Yeah, I mean, y'all made really good points. I'm actually going to look at this from the lens of our customer-facing teams, specifically the success managers. One of the things that we're doing at Justuno is we're really encouraging collaboration between CSM teams cross organization. So not just partnership people, we're looking at accounts that have activated integrations, and we're finding an opportunity to get those teams together to align on goals and KPIs. What is this going to do? It's going to help with the improvement in the building of the integration to help it become more sticky and of more value to the merchant, because ultimately we are going to get the merchant involved. But past that point, it's also about like employee development as well, relationship building. And that ultimately is going to impact your organization in a positive way, because the individuals that are working on the at the ground level are going to be able to build their networks. They're going to be able to develop their skill sets, which are going to all be very useful for them in their own careers. So that's a very long-winded way of that you can future-proof your integrations and keep them scalable and adaptable, is activate your customer-facing teams across organizations.
Yeah, and I love the internal professional development part of it too. Like that's sort of a driving star for us, is making sure that people are obviously continuing to grow as members of the team, and giving folks more visibility to things that are outside of like their direct line of business. I think not only keeps your employees and your team members engaged, which is great for retention and for their own growth, but also brings a diversity of ideas, right? That may not ordinarily have had like a seat at the table. I think like having CX people, to your point, Derek, CX people, product people, engineers, and maybe even sales all like together in a room talking about the shared goal of the business is something that seems like table stakes, but doesn't happen that often as you grow. So love to hear that. Olga, anything you wanted to add? I know you got one in.
Oh, good.
All right. So I think we have time for one question before we wrap it up. So here's one that I really like that somebody asked. Have you ever built an integration that didn't yield the expected ROI, and what were the lessons learned? Let's go straight for the jugular.
No, for real. I think the biggest lesson there was to like really be honed in on what your customers want. And like, this is where it goes back to what I mentioned in the beginning, to making sure that you speak the language cross-functionally with other teams, because an integration may affect one KPI, but not all the KPIs. And so from a net new perspective, I mean, there's absolutely been, I'm sure we've all felt it before, where you get really excited about a new integration. You're like, yes, this is going to bring in so much. Like this is such a value that folks have been looking for. I had thought. And then of course it doesn't yield the results that you were looking for. And so that's the biggest lesson there, is to really make sure that you are dialed in on what your customers want. And this is where it goes back to making sure that you have that alignment with your sales and CS team, with your GTM team, to really make sure that you, again, this encompasses really like everything we've talked about, making sure that you have strong reporting, making sure that you are making data-backed decisions is so crucial and important, because I'm sure we've all been there where we, had a good vibe, but that vibe didn't maybe pan out. So that's when you really want to make sure that you are making strong data-backed decisions.
Yeah, it's so true.
Derek, Olga, any thoughts there? Any battle scars?
Yeah, I can maybe share.
Go ahead, Olga.
So super tactical, but one is when you're building an integration, make sure on the other side. So if you're building it or somebody's building it too, but like somebody is committed on the other side, they can help you answer questions. Maybe they need to tweak something, add like a data point into the payload, whatever it is. Like you have somebody, and then they have skin in the game, meaning like it will also drive some sort of impact on them, because otherwise, like it could drag out forever. So one point is work with your partnerships team, make sure there's somebody on the other side who has a stake and can help you through the integration just to speed things up faster. What Mia said in terms of like, make sure you know what you want to get out of the integration. So like real specific customer like use cases. As if you have a customer that will like beta test it for you, even better. Like this is probably what you should try for. If you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna build this integration and it's gonna drive so much business to me, and then you build it and nothing comes, like it's probably because you didn't really understand like what you were trying to, what use cases you were trying to solve for. So like have some problems that you want to solve. And then three, as you're working with somebody, man, like have a shared document that like is as clear as possible about how the thing is going to work, because you build something and you're like, it's going to be great. And then you test it and you're like, it's not doing half the things that I thought it was doing. It's just like this miscommunication happens, especially when you're working with somebody from a different company. And so, yeah, like very super table stakes, but a doc that is like as detailed as one can possibly go. And then, concrete timelines that you can like hit with that other company. So like, yeah, super technical probably for the PMs out there, but hopefully it helps.
Derek, what about you?
I mean, at the end of the day, at Justuno, we've built our partner program and our onboarding program to train our own partnerships people for ISV relationships, for technology partnerships, that a partnership is not going to be a partnership unless there is a vision and a path to integration. So there's criteria that we run through that we've trained even the people on our team that aren't technical people to look at, in addition to the things that are just rational business minded thinking, using intake forms to understand the profile of the person that wants to integrate with you, establishing business alignment, shameless plug to Crossbeam. I mean, we all use Crossbeam. Look at the overlaps, and where we've made mistakes in the past before is we've made mistakes where we see market potential but we don't have strong customer overlap. My recommendation is invest in the integrations where there's strong customer overlap already, because it makes those discussions and those conversations a lot easier to figure out, okay, we see that you're using Triple Whale. We just built an integration with Triple Whale. How did we decide to build our integration with Triple Whale and what we were passing over to Triple Whale? We talked to our clients. Like that's how we learned about what they're going to actually use. And if you do that, I'll tell you that 95% of the time, people are going to adopt the integrations that you build because you're getting the feedback directly from the shared merchant overlaps. So that's my piece.
I love it. And we are at time, but before we go, I do want to get one last thing from you guys. In closing, one nugget to leave everybody with for their integration strategy in 2025. I will go first. Don't let the perfect be the enemy, or don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Get out there and just launch the things. If you have conviction and you have some data, don't get yourselves overwhelmed with waterfall style speccing. Just like build and go and see what happens. Mia.
Whoever you are looking to get buy-in for this integration, speak their language. Make it matter to them.
Olga.
Quick feedback loops with your go-to-market teams.
And rounding out, Derek.
Prioritize integrations of the product as a part of the product roadmap, and implement small wins that influence cross-departmental collaboration and communication.
Oh, I love it. All right, we are at time. Thank you guys so much. This was so fun. I was really looking forward to this. For the folks on the call listening in, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. If you want more deets, more info, more content about integrations, pandium.com. We have a great blog. A lot of these folks have been on it before. And we look forward to seeing you guys out there. Thanks again for joining us.